high-end producers.
Building a better Bay Area. Moving forward, finding solutions. This is ABC7 News.
Hi there, I'm Kristen Z. Happy Friday. You're watching Getting Answers live on ABC7. We always ask experts your questions every day at 3 to get answers for you in real time. Today, an eye-opening new political survey shows Californians overwhelmingly want new blood and don't want either President Biden or former President Trump to run again in 2024. The director of the UC Berkeley Institute of Governmental Studies will join us to discuss the findings. Also, of course, San Francisco will be the place for what's believed to be the world's first fully robotic restaurant. Bowls, Mediterranean bowls prepared entirely by robotics. The co-founder of Mesli will show us how it all works. But first, big headlines on monkeypox. California public health officials issue quarantine guidance and a study on how the virus lingers on surfaces. Here with us now to talk about the latest with monkeypox and to answer your questions, ABC7 News special correspondent Dr. Alok Patel. Dr. Patel, thanks for joining us on this Friday.
Always, Kristen, it is good to see you. Happy Friday.
It is always good to see you, always good to learn. And of course, we learn a lot just by taking your 2 truths and a lie quiz. So let's get started there. And Facebook viewers, you know what to do.
Let's dive into this. Everyone, tell us which one of these is not true. Is it A, starting on Monday, about 360,000 vials of monkeypox vaccine will be available, which is equivalent to 1.8 million doses? Or is it B, the UK authorized a bivalent vaccine targeting SARS-CoV-2 plus Omicron BA1, but the US will have one that's also targeting BA5. I shouldn't say also, but instead of BA1, targeting BA5. Or is it C, a new Lancet study found about 70% of cancer deaths worldwide are associated with preventable risk factors. Which one of these is not true?
Wow, leave that up there. I want our Facebook friends to really weigh in because I think you've stumped me here. This is a tough one. Maybe it's just my Friday brain, I don't know. But folks, I'm waiting for your responses to help me out. I think A is true. I know there's a massive expansion of vaccine availability, although the numbers could be tricky there. And I do think that the UK has authorized one that targets Omicron BA1. So I'm going to say C is the lie. Oh, no, because our viewers are saying A and B. All right, I revise myself. Because our viewers are so smart, and most of them, although I'm seeing a couple C's, most of them say B. I'm going to switch to B.
Okay, so B is actually true. The bivalent vaccine.
Right the first time.
You were right. You got to go with your gut, Kristen. You crushed the SATs. I'm well aware. So the UK has one targeting BA1. The United States FDA is going to wait for one that's also targeting BA5, the dominant strain for coronavirus. Regarding A, this is important to know because when we see the amount of vials, remember, now that we're able to do that intradermal vaccine, that theoretically quintuples our supply. So that comes out to about 1.8 million doses. And C is not true. The actual answer is about 45%. Kristen, this is still very important for people out there to know because those preventable risk factors are things like smoking, diet, drinking, all of it. If you want to reduce your risk of cancer, ask your doctor or look around at ways you can live a healthier life. It's that simple.
All right. Hey, that is all great information. And I just want to say, I still love my viewers who said B and led me astray today. That is fine because we're all here to learn. So I want to talk about monkeypox a little bit more. I saw the headline that cases have doubled in Los Angeles. Very alarming. But what about here in San Francisco, which of course was one of the hot spots?
Well, right now in San Francisco, if you look as of August 18th, according to what we have for data, we're under 1,000 cases, about 618. But Kristen, if you look at the population per 100,000 residents, San Francisco actually has more cases, I guess, per capita than Los Angeles, and one of the highest rates in the country per resident. And obviously, as we start to test more and there's more awareness and more access, we may very well see that number go up. And also, as cases continue to spread while we're waiting for people to actually be able to get that vaccine, numbers may go up as well.
Right. And of course, right now, what we want is to prevent transmission. So the CDC has put out a really interesting graphic. I think it's informational, a ranking of behavior that goes from least to most risky. Walk us through this.
So this is actually very useful for people out there. There's a lot of individuals have questions about their own individual behavior and their risk. And I will give a shout out to my colleagues at ABC News New York, Dr. Darian Sutton and John Brownstein, who actually contributed to ABC News and made this chart. So we're not giving the CDC credit for this one. But if you go through this, Kristen, you know, the most risky behavior right now that we know of that spreads monkeypox is that sexual contact or prolonged skin-to-skin contact, whether that is hugging, cuddling, etc. Things that are risky would be surfaces, living with someone or taking care of someone or sharing material with someone who has monkeypox. And then what's going to be less risky are casual encounters, walking by someone, being in a classroom with anyone, basically like that. So when in doubt, if you're going to be in contact for whatever reason with individuals, this is kind of your gold standard to think about how risky your behavior potentially is.
Okay, can we look at the risky one a little bit? Because it says contact with towel sheets, linens used by someone who is positive. If you're in a communal living situation, such as in a college dorm, and I'm asking because a lot of kids going back to school right now, isn't that risk there and very much there, and how can you mitigate it?
It absolutely is. And again, but this is not the highest amount of risk, but Kristen, this is why a lot of college medical centers have put out awareness campaigns and making sure students understand the signs, the risk then associated with getting monkeypox and where to get vaccines, where to get tested, because those communal living spaces theoretically can harbor some virus. So it's going to come down to students isolating when they need to and disinfecting those surfaces. And this kind of brings up a headline that you and I wanted to talk about. And it's the CDC actually looking at a specific case about how long or whether or not viral DNA can survive on surfaces. They looked at one particular situation in Utah, 2 individuals who tested positive for monkeypox. They tested a bunch of their surfaces in their home and found that there was DNA, but it wasn't infective DNA, but it was present on a lot of surfaces that you will touch on a daily basis, like the phone, coffee pot, and a doorknob. So it's possible that the DNA can live on a surface, but it's going to degrade over time and with cleaning.
How much time? I guess that is my question.
It's yet to be determined how much time, but that's why if you are going to share a space with somebody who has monkeypox, isolation, disinfecting is very important. And also, when in doubt, you can still do things like cover up your skin with clothing and or wear a glove, wear a mask, especially if you're in a healthcare setting.
Good tips. All right, speaking of isolation, the state of California Public Health finally released a more detailed guidance on quarantining. Can you tell us what that is?
I think I don't even want to say this is a change, but kind of the big statement they made was that individuals should really isolate until those lesions really scab over, and then wait about 48 hours after that to absolutely make sure they're decreasing any potential chance of spreading monkeypox to somebody else. And this brings up a very important topic, Kristen, is that not everyone out there can afford or has the means to isolate for as long as that process takes, because it could take a couple weeks in some individuals, and it could take longer. We talked about this couple in Utah, the CDC did a study on. These individuals took about 22 to 30 days to fully recover. It's a lot of time to isolate.
Okay, some super rapid questions. Can you get infected even if you're vaccinated?
You can. There are cases, and this just tells us that the vaccine right now is not 100% effective, but it is still effective and still recommended for those at risk.
Okay. Are people who have had the smallpox vaccine, so mostly boomers, are they protected?
Theoretically are protected, but they are not going to be as protected as when they first got that smallpox vaccine. Based on the data we have from the CDC, the smallpox vaccine is most effective in the 3 to 5 years after you get it, and the immunity wanes over time. But remember, the JYNNEOS vaccine is essentially a smallpox vaccine targeting both. So they should have some protection, but if you got the smallpox vaccine in the past and you are potentially at risk for monkeypox, chat with your doctor. You may need a booster.
All right. Some people who got the shot report side effects. How serious, how common?
The most common side effects that are being reported right now are those local issues from where you got the injection, things like swelling, redness, and itching. Itching seems to be bothering a lot of people. And Kristen, we'll wait to see what the side effect profile really looks like with the intradermal vaccine. That's going right in the layer of the skin. That is going to possibly cause more local reactions, including hardening of the skin and a little bump that's uncomfortable.
Almost out of time, but I know you really want to get in this point, a new finding about racial disparities.
This just goes further and tells us that we still have work to do when it comes to awareness and resource allocation, finding that nearly 20 to 30% of cases right now are in Black and brown individuals in those communities. And that is disproportionately representative when we actually look at the population in this country. So this is something that we need to be proactive about and no longer reactive. We saw this happen in COVID-19. We're seeing it happen right now in monkeypox. We have to do better.
Dr. Alok Patel, you just gave us a master class in speedy information delivery. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
Well, you are the mentor, Kristen. You push me, I do it.
Oh, gosh, you're too kind. All right, thanks, Dr. Patel. Coming up next, California voters have weighed in, saying they don't want President Biden or former President Trump in 2024. The director of a new Berkeley poll joins us after the break.
Sure. This is Mark DiCamillo. I am the director of the Berkeley IGS poll.
A new poll on the 2024 election is probably not what President Biden wants to hear. The UC Berkeley Institute of Governmental Studies polled over 9,000 California voters this month, and they overwhelmingly said they don't want President Biden to run again. But they also don't want former President Donald Trump to run again. So who do they want? Joining us live now with the answer to that is Mark DiCamillo, the UC Berkeley IGS director. Mark, thanks for your time. This is really interesting. A whopping 61% of Californians don't want President Biden to seek re-election, and that's in true blue California, where Democrats outnumber Republicans 2-1. So it can't just be along party lines, right? Can you break it down for us?
Well, sure. Obviously, Republicans overwhelmingly oppose Biden running for re-election. But what's interesting is looking at the Democratic Party, they're evenly split, and even no party preference voters who are eligible to vote in a Democratic presidential primary, they're opposed to the president running. So even though it's quite unusual for an incumbent president not to run, given Biden's age, I think that might be factoring into a number of voters' opinions.
Does your survey ask why? Is it job performance? What is it that they cite?
No, I don't think so. I mean, certainly the economic times usually govern quite a bit when it comes to the re-election of a president. In economic hard times, it's often the case that the president's job ratings suffer. In California, Biden's ratings are about evenly split. As many people approve as disapprove. That's a little better than nationally, where only about 40% approve of his performance. I think that's really what's dragging him down. He really needs the economy to start turning around before 2024 to start improving his standing with voters.
I know your poll also looked at this. If Biden doesn't run, who are the top Democrats that voters prefer?
Well, it's the actual leader is undecided. There really isn't a single candidate who jumps out as the obvious choice if Biden doesn't run. But interestingly, here in California, home state Governor Gavin Newsom is at the top of the list, even outdistancing Kamala Harris, who many view as the heir apparent should Biden not run. So it's interesting. There is no one really that stands out. It's not like 1980 when Jimmy Carter was running and there was Ted Kennedy in the background. There's really not an obvious Democratic challenger. And I think that actually works in some ways to Biden's benefit. There doesn't seem to be anyone there that's the obvious alternative.
That's right.
But it's interesting that Newsom would outpace Harris in their home state.
I also found it interesting that a couple of non-California homegrown folks and names are in there as well. Bernie Sanders, very popular here, and Pete Buttigieg too, right?
Sure. Well, Bernie Sanders won the Democratic primary here 4 years ago. Not a big surprise there. He has a constituency among progressives, and actually even younger voters still prefer him. But still, their numbers are relatively modest, and undecided is actually higher than both.
True. Although Newsom's name was not on that primary ballot. And of course, he continues to insist that he's not running in 2024. But of course, it's politics, so things could always change if President Biden sits out. Let's talk about the Republican side. Voters also don't seem to want a repeat of 2020 and former President Trump. What does that break down? How does that look?
Well, for Trump, it's even worse. 65% of Californians strongly oppose Trump running again in 2024. So it's not just that a very large majority don't want him to run. The strength of opposition here is quite big. And there is actually a challenger that many Republicans in this state would tolerate if Trump chose not to run, and that's the governor from Florida, DeSantis. He is odds-on favorite here in California if Trump were not to run. So a lot of the Republican conservative base would move easily to DeSantis if Trump were not on the ballot.
What about former Vice President Mike Pence?
He's very weak. He's only getting about 9% in a scenario where Trump is not running, whereas a majority are supporting DeSantis. So he'd be the early formidable leader. And I think that would probably be true nationally as well.
All right. Speaking of nationally, I'm wondering if you only looked at California and whether you can extrapolate the nation feels the same way as California, or are we kind of an outlier?
Well, now this poll was only a poll of Californians. I don't want to go too far overboard with how Californians kind of reflect the nation. I think we are a very different state. We're a very blue state. It's usually a Democratic state. So it's going to be interesting to see what shakes out on the Democratic side. I think that's really the question here in the state.
Yeah, more open than ever before, right, compared to when you have an incumbent in office. So that is interesting. Mark DiCamillo, thank you so very much for sharing the results of the latest poll.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, coming up next, the future of the food industry is here. A new San Francisco restaurant is run entirely by robots. Yep, we'll show you how it works when Getting Answers continues. The Bay Area is the high-tech capital of the world, and it's paradise for foodies. So perhaps it's no surprise that a restaurant run entirely by robots is ready to launch in San Francisco. It serves up healthy Mediterranean bowls. Got a couple right here. You could take a look at that. Yep, these were prepared just a couple of hours ago by robots. Joining us live now from Spark Social, where Mesli is located, co-founder Alex Kolchinsky. Hey, Alex, welcome. Congratulations.
Thanks, Kristen.
Yeah, I know your grand opening is next weekend, right? And that's the restaurant right behind you. Can you call it a restaurant? Is that what it is? What is the big concept?
Yeah, sure. We call them Mezli box. They're really a robotic restaurant, just like when you go to Chipotle or Sweet Green and you order a bowl with certain ingredients and it's put together right in front of you. That's exactly what our machine here does.
Can I ask you, how did you get the idea for this? This is, you know, you have some funding, Silicon Valley style. Do you have a Silicon Valley style origin story?
I came up as a programmer, and I was in Stanford for grad school doing some research on artificial intelligence and machine learning. And actually, one of my biggest problems in grad school on a personal level was that I was on a small stipend, and I was also really busy with research. So it was really hard to find the time or the money to eat well, whether that was by going out to eat or by cooking. And so I started looking into why this was the case and talking to friends, including now my co-founder, Alex Patel, and realized that the reason why good, healthy food at restaurants like Sweet Green is so expensive is that running a traditional restaurant is really expensive. And over time, we realized that if we automated this and we still did the traditional prep process in a central kitchen, but did the service and the sort of final steps, the final service steps on site, we could serve really good food for lower prices. And so that's why we started the company.
Got it. Okay, so show us how it works.
Sure. Let me just hand off the camera here.
You got a camera operator there for you? Oh, you're doing it all by yourself?
Do ya?
Okay.
Here we go. So here we have the ordering kiosks. And so you can just go up to one of these, and then on the touch screen, it'll show you exactly what you need to do to order. So here you tap, and then it shows you a whole menu of classic bowls. And so do you mind putting it on more of a straight angle? So if you take a look at the screen, you can see we have some pre-configured bowls, and you also have a custom bowl. So you can go through the different ingredients that we have and pick yellow rice or red rice, see the information about them, and you can pick whatever you want, see the calories, see the price come together, and maybe you want some slaw, maybe you want some sauce. And so this is a really small bowl that I just configured. It's 680 calories, and it's only $4.99. And like this is really our mission here, is to make really good food more affordable.
Wait, how much?
And so
like
actually,
like a fully finished bowl, like the kind that we got here in the studio. How much does that come out to?
So our headline bowls are between $6.99 and $11.99, but it is possible to order a smaller bowl if you want a little snack. And that can be as little as what you just saw.
Okay, wow. Okay, so take us behind the curtains a little bit, right? Within the constraints of the proprietary stuff, I get that. So once your order goes in, which you showed us how to do it, what happens behind the scenes? What exactly do the robots do? And we do have some video you sent us.
That's great, yeah. So behind here is a full automatic production line, which you can see here on the video. And so what happens is that the ingredients, which have been mostly pre-prepped in the central kitchen, are dispensed into the bowl based on what you ordered. And then what you'll see in a minute is that it'll actually go through an oven for some heating and finishing cooking steps. And this is a proprietary combination oven we're using. And then some more stuff goes on top, garnishes, toppings, sauces. And so you get a full bowl assembled to your taste. And then it comes out of a smart locker, which I'll be able to show you right here.
Okay, I know you can't show us all the robotic action, but we've done stories in San Francisco on restaurants that utilize robots in their operations. What makes Mesli unique? Is it the extent that you use robots? Is it that there's no human on site?
That's right. So here you see the pickup station. So other robotic restaurants have tried to automate certain parts of the restaurant experience, like maybe part of the plating process or maybe some of the ordering process. But no one's actually done a full end-to-end experience where there's no humans in the loop at all on site. And when you actually do that, you can do something that's smaller. So these are cheaper to build in a restaurant and more environmentally friendly. And you can also do something that serves food at a much lower price than if you actually have human employees in the loop in a traditional restaurant.
Okay, so Alex,
so that's the
while
full
we were
automation.
talking, Is the robot back there preparing the thing that you just ordered? Is it done? How long does it take?
So end to end, a bowl takes 5 to 6 minutes, but we actually have some bowls ready for pickup. So let me show you one.
Okay. Let's take a
So
look.
here, you can walk up to the screen here, and it's a little sunny, but it has some names here. You tap on a name, and once you do that, you confirm that it's your order. And then the pickup process begins. So you'll actually see the locker become clear shortly as the bowl gets put out by the robot. And this is the last step of the process. Once the food comes out, you can also get your utensils and bags and lids down below, and there's the bowl. So you pick it up.
It's kind of like a vending machine,
lunch.
right? There it is, except it's warm. It's exactly what you wanted. Look, it's cool and all, but for long-term success, the food has got to be good. I will say it was pretty tasty. I had the chicken one. In the studio, we also have the lamb and falafel. But tell us about the chef who designed this. I understand they have a Michelin pedigree.
That's right. We've been working since almost day one of the company with Chef Eric Minnick. He's got a Michelin star from his time at Madeira at the Rosewood in Menlo Park. He's also cooked at other restaurants, including the Commissary with Tracy Desjardins. And he's phenomenal. And he's put together our menu and made it as good as it is.
All right, so soft launch this week. When is the grand opening?
We've got our grand opening coming up the 28th. That's in a week and a half on Sunday, and that'll be from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. So please stop by. We'll be serving free food all day until it runs out. All
right, Alex Kolchinsky, co-founder of Mesli, of the Mesli box. We'll see. We'll see if this is the future of dining in the future. But best of luck.
Thanks very much, Kristen.
A reminder, folks, you can get our live newscast, breaking news, weather, and more with our ABC7 Bay Area streaming TV app. It's available on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Just search ABC7 Bay Area and download it now. We'll be right back. Thanks so much for joining us today on this interactive show, Getting Answers. We'll be here every weekday at 3 on air and on live stream answering your questions. I'll see you at 4.